Assalamu alaikum. Mr. Moderator, our distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, our friends and our enemies.
Essentially, now when you look throughout the history of medicine, there are things that have been done to people of color, to Black people, that is inexcusable.
Yes.
And the one that comes to mind is the Tuskegee syphilis experiment. Many people know about this. If you ask most people in the African American community, most people in the Black community, and a lot of what I really appreciate about working because I work in a predominantly in a community that's predominantly Black people, that's who I predominantly treat. I like talking to the elders in the community. And after I've gotten their medical history or whatever, I asked them, how was it growing up? And what the stories they tell you is mind-blowing. One told me once that he was young, he came to the hospital, and because we found it strange, we did a CAT scan for him, he has one kidney. We're like, bro, how do you have one kidney? When I was young, they took it out. Why?
What?
I don't know.
What?
He says, I don't know.
What? They just...
I don't know. Now, people
They just stole his kidney?
People would hear that and go, that's ridiculous. That can't happen. Now, that could be said if, when you look at the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, in 1932, a paper came out of Oslo, Norway, and it said that, Caucasians or whites, when they get syphilis, they have a lot of neurologic involvement. And so this is the government, this is the public health service, now funded a study saying, what if Black people have more heart issues with their syphilis? This is just a theory. They have no facts behind it. This is just their theory. What did they do? They thought to themselves, where would we find a high concentration of Black people? So they went to Macon.
Yeah.
And at that time, had a high level of, Blacks that had syphilis. They incorporated them in this study. The study was supposed to be 6 months. They told them, you're going to get food, you're going to get good care, we're going to be treating you. They were giving them zero treatment. They watched these men deteriorate in front of their eyes. They watched them transfer syphilis to their wives. They watched children being born with congenital syphilis. And what makes it even worse, the study was supposed to be 6 months. You know how long the study ended up going for?
How long?
Take a guess.
5
years? Nope. 10 years? Nope. 20 years? Nope. 40 years, bro.
Ooh.
1932 to 1972. It took someone they did some research and go, wait a minute, what's going on here? And a whistleblower is what caused that study to be stopped. Here's what's crazy. In 1945, the medical fraternity found out that penicillin could treat syphilis, and it became the standard of care.
So even though like penicillin has been around forever, right? And it's such a cheap.
So they knew at that time, it's available, it's been used, it's curing syphilis. They went about ensuring that these men did not get the treatment.
Didn't get treated.
And then they would go to the doctors, Black doctors, and say to them, if they come to you for treatment, they're a part of our study, don't treat them. And so this act of just blatant, experimentation and exploitation of people just based on the social construct of how they look became such a widespread understanding amongst African Americans and Blacks in this country that they said, well, wait, you people use us as guinea pigs. You don't have our best interest at heart. You use us as guinea pigs. So when there is a distrust of the medical system, I can't look at that person and say, use your intellect.
Yeah, you got a point.
They got set up. So if I get set up, why am I going to go again and believe in it? So I want it to be framed in that manner, because it's important, you know, as a physician, what I look at is, I look at being in the other person's shoe. I don't want to speak from a point of I'm looking down at them, but I want to, this is my brother, this is my sister, this is my father, this is my uncle, this is my aunt. Okay, so right. So essentially, this is my aunt, this is my uncle. You know, so, and I'm not talking about this in the construct of how somebody looks based on your race, color, and whatever. But I mean in the general sense. And then it becomes even more so when the person is Black. That's just the reality, right? So I have to understand where they're coming from. I have to have empathy. I have to have that understanding. And this isn't a one-off situation. You know, there's a cell line, and it's called the Henrietta Lake cell line. I don't know if you ever heard about it, but essentially it's a cell line that they found that they've been able to do multiple treatment and studies and so on from, and it was taken from a Black female, Henrietta, without her knowing, without her approval. The family didn't know, the family, you know, so we've had multiple things happen to people of African descent in the Americas that on the medical side, that makes them very, that do not make them trust, make them, you know, they have a huge level of distrust. So what that has led to is it has led to healthcare disparity, meaning that some people will have things happen to them at a higher rate than others.
Yes. And
healthcare disparity has two factors. It has internal factor and external factors. One of the internal factors is trust. If I don't trust that this doctor is giving me the right medication, I'm not going to him. I'm not going to her. I'm not going for that surgery. But the external factors are what we just explained a while ago. The fact that the medical system also played significant parts in creating an unfair and an unjust system. So for instance, if we look at in the 80s and 90s, when the opioid epidemic is hitting Black people, how was it treated at that time? By criminalization.
The crack epidemic, right? Yeah.
How was it treated?
Yeah, just say no. Just say
you
no.
What? But you were a what? What were you?
Three strikes, you're going to jail for the rest of your life. You know.
And you were a criminal.
Yeah, the Black people were criminals.
And so it was criminalized.
Yeah.
Now, when it has affected another population.
Yeah, now it's the opioids, because back then
now
it was crack. It was crack, it was cocaine. Nobody cared. Nobody cared about
the Surgeon General, right? The Surgeon General, brilliant guy, you know, African-American, brilliant guy, said, because his brother was also affected by this opioid epidemic. Now what we're saying in medicine is that, listen, addiction is a what? It's a chronic disease.
It's a sickness.
You see that shift?
All of a sudden it's a sickness.
And we treat it now as a sickness.
Yeah.
To the point where back then, the medication that could reverse it in case you're about to die, called naloxone, that medication, you could get it at the hospital. Now, police have it, EMT have it, bro, even family members have it.
Wow.
So when your son or your daughter, when you go into the room and they are strung out, just hit them with the naloxone. Why? Because we want them to be alive, because we want to treat them as what? As someone who's dealing with a disease condition. But that wasn't the case before.
Nope.
And that's the reality. Another thing we look at is, you look at what happened after, you've removed, the legislation that would have allowed persons to just walk up to a Black person and just say, hey, you must be owned by somebody. Kick him, hit him in the head, kill him. All of those is removed, right? But now persons are concentrated in where? In the ghettos. What happens in the ghetto is what? You have poor nutritional opportunities. You have high fructose corn syrup. You have shops that have nutritionally deficient food.
Eventually, these ghettos and these projects essentially are food deserts. They're food deserts. They don't actually give you food. What they give you is a whole bunch of processed stuff to keep you, basically docile. High fructose corn syrup, MSG, all these type of chemical foods.
So do we think the people don't know this? The people know this, man. People know this. So it's like a setup. So now I have my high blood pressure. I got my diabetes. But you don't want to deal with the issues that led to it? Of course, we got to deal with those issues. And that's the reality. Now, because we understand those are external factors. So what I want persons to understand, especially in our community, what they need to understand is while you are struggling to fix the external factors, you have to be accountable for your internal factors. You have to seek the knowledge.
Yes.
You have to be empowered with understanding what's going in your body and how it's affecting you. You have to understand what the distrust of the medical system, what it will lead to if you don't seek care at the right time. And so the two have to come hand in hand. And so now when we look at the situation of the coronavirus, right across the US, almost every single state, who was most affected?
Black people. Black people. And the funny thing is, Dr. Tijani, when the coronavirus first popped off, and you can see it on my channel too, right? There were white supremacists openly saying that we should spread this virus in the Black community.
Wow,
and
I didn't know that.
Surprise, the most effective people from the coronavirus just happened to be Blacks.
I didn't know that. I didn't know
yes,
that.
And I put the video on my.
What I can say is, the Black and Hispanic community has been hit tremendously hard in New York. This is, I mean, so for persons to now spread videos and spread whatever they want to spread without actually looking at the numbers is grossly incompetent and is doing your own people a disservice. Your people are dying.
One of these doctors that are being spread like wildfire, his name is Dr. Rashid Bhuttar, right?
Okay.
And like I said, I'm just a simple guy, right? So one of the things that he's saying is that the coronavirus is
Yes. 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 Yes, I love you. Yes. 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 Only you.